Well, welcome to another edition of Unplugged, a special edition of Unplugged. It's kind of snuck up on us a little bit that it is our birthday this week. We started this show 6 years ago this week. It was the 24th of July, and ironically, it was after we'd played Geelong at Kardinia Park. It was to be the last game Alan Richardson would coach the club. It had been in the pipeline for a little while, but that was one of the motivating factors. There was a heck of a lot to talk about for Saints fans that particular week. And obviously we come 6 years down the track. We've gone through the pandemic. We played finals twice. There's been a lot of comings and goings, and it's been a lot of fun. We've spoken to some superstars. I mean, a lot of our heroes growing up, Robert Harvey, Lenny Hayes, Stuart Lowe, Nathan Burke, etc., Barry Breen and Alan Davis and Ross Smith, guys that were stars of the premiership team in 1966, and plenty of fun chats, even with guys that might have played less games for the club but had interesting stories to tell. Gordon Fode, Brett Moyle, Craig O'Brien, Zach Dawson, etc. But it has been a hell of a journey, and we'll talk about the game in a second, Nick. But it's been a fun 6 years, or 6 years / 7 seasons, and we find ourselves a fair way down the track, a bit older and a bit tapping. I think we've all had children since then, and you're about to have another one. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, it has. I mean, a lot's changed. Both, I think for all of us at the footy club, I think we've had a number of coaching changes. Like you said, we've all. Oh, H, you had. Did you have?
I think you already did. No? Yeah.
You had your two, or you had one when we started?
No, before. Both.
You had both. You had both. I had one. I've got another one and one on the way. Darren, you've had one since. Life has changed a lot. But I do remember. I think we've been talking about it for about a year on and off, maybe even longer on and off. So we should do a podcast. Or I don't know. It seems like a lot of work. Can't be bothered. We should. It'd be cool to do, but I don't know if we can make it work or whatever. And then Richo gets sacked, and I think you said, "Why don't we just do it?" I think you were in the SEN studio from memory. And you called H and I, and we did it off our phones. And we're sitting down in the what I used to call the dungeon at home, and doing it on the phone and phoning it in. And it was the start of something special. I think, something that we all enjoy doing. I think at different times in our lives over the last 6 or 7 years, it's been challenging. Life has been challenging for a number of reasons that you've mentioned, Darren. But this is kind of a bit of, it's both football therapy, it's life therapy, it's a chance for the three of us and the three of us mates to get together and catch up regularly and chat about whatever. We get to chat about footy, we get to chat to footy players and footy people and all those things that we love and the things that kind of brought us together as mates, 20 odd years ago, if not longer. So, it's been a massive part of my life ever since we did this, and it's something that I look forward to just about every week, whether we have a guest or not.
As Nick said, we've been going to the footy since the early 2000s probably, and obviously we're reflecting pre-show on Marvel or Docklands being 25 years old, Colonial Stadium as it was at the time, and we've probably been going to the footy for most of that period, and even back in the Waverley days with the Gippsland supporters bus that we've spoken about a little bit. And it's been good to come together in this digital age and talk a bit of footy, and doing it on video kind of started in the pandemic, and we thought that was a pretty good idea to keep that rolling.
Yeah, well, it sort of became instead of going to the forums, I guess, and abusing everyone or just getting on there to yell out whatever you had on your mind at that point. It gave us a little bit of a outlet to come to, I guess. So I think we've had days where we've probably had more outbursts before we've got online, before we've actually started recording, and sort of held them off as we've got on a little bit at times. But generally been a place we can come and go, well, this is what we reckon, this is what we think's happening, this is what we think should happen. And it's been we've had a few good calls. We've had a few calls we've really gone, that was a bit off, maybe a little bit away from what's ended up happening. But we're waiting for Nick to make a bit of a call at some point, I think. But we'll see if that happens or not. But yeah, it's given us a place to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's been, a long road to here, and obviously we'll talk a bit about that as we go along, and hopefully continue to have some. Yeah.
What's been your favourite interviews or your favourite moments?
Probably, it's interesting when you get to interview. So I guess some of my favourite players growing up, probably 4 would be Hayes, Harvey, Heatley, Jones. Probably been my 4 favourite players over the course of my football supporting life. So speaking to all of them, and obviously all of them really good fellas, but yeah, it's probably just been that, maybe that feeling of celebrating the ups, like when we beat Geelong and knew we were playing finals in 2023, and when we knew we'd made it in 2020 after beating the Giants, and then when we won that final, probably just those good days, which Saints fans probably appreciate more than others because we don't have as many of them.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Yeah, I think
favorite?
we started off with a pretty good bunch in the beginning, like Spider and Milne and Schneids, and it sort of gave us a bit of a kick to begin with. And you sort of go back to those sort of things. We were a bit fresh and that sort of thing, but they were more probably chats rather than full-on interviews with those guys. So they were, good ones to sort of get us up and going and gave us a little bit of a nice little kick along to appeal to a few people, and that's gone on since then.
Yeah,
yours, Nick?
There's a couple. I mean, you mentioned the Aussie Jones one, and he was one of all of our favourites. I think he was one of everybody's favourites. Brett Moyle was a great one. Zach Dawson is one that always kind of sticks in my memory, just kind of how raw and honest and open he was about his troubles and his journey. And I think that was one of the realest ones. And things that you guys that got to talk about their moments or the thing that kind of people talk about them and got to tell us those stories in their words, the Troy Schwartz goal, Craig Davenport and Ken Sheldon, those sorts of things. I mean, that sort of stuff has just been amazing getting to hear those stories from the people who were there.
One thing to jump back on is probably one that got actually relayed the story onto a much bigger podcast than what we have, but the Russell Morris story about Plugger that Charlie took along and went on to 2 Guys 1 Cup with, and he pretty much made its own segment on what is a worldwide podcast. That one
was the pranking him in the gym, when Plugger got most annoyed. Yeah,
well, that was the other thing. I mean, doing this podcast is getting to meet guys like Charlie and Ollie Gill and Matt Stewart and a bunch of those other guys outside of not footy players, but other fans. And Michael Klim was a great chat. That was an awesome chat. There's been so many. And I think we got together the day after Shane Warne died, and we talked about Warney from the lens of a St Kilda fan and a sports fan, cricket fans, and
getting Alex Stewart on, the captain, going around the world,
Chuck Berry, these kind of guys, and just getting to talk to them about being fans like us. That's been wonderful.
So mentioning our guest co-hosts, more than guest co-hosts, part of the fabric, obviously Phil Deladakis, Michael Egan, Shay Williams, Tim Rosen, Ollie, Charlie, who you mentioned, have all co-hosted it at one point or another. So, and hopefully we'll hear more of them over the journey. Obviously, we reflected on Spud a lot. That probably happened 2 months after we started. I think was it the 20 or the 18th of September or somewhere around about that mark, maybe a little bit earlier than that, 8th of September, I think, which was only 6 weeks or so after we started. So, and plenty of people telling stories around him, and obviously those reflections, Shani Layton and Andrew Gaze, etc. But in terms of the game just gone, I guess it was a case of similar to the previous 4 weeks, although one minor difference. Obviously, the previous 4 weeks we were right in the game for a long time. This game, we were out of it early, and it felt like it was going to be ugly. I think we probably raised concerns last week on the podcast, thinking we've been competitive for a month without reward. You go down to a difficult place to play. Could they drop away? And it looked like that was going to happen. 5 goals down after 15 minutes. Geelong had kicked a couple of miracle goals, and you thought, uh-oh. But we showed a fair bit of character, and, had we have not given up that junk time goal in the second quarter, we would have been within single figures at half time, and then missed a couple early in the third when we could have got within a kick. And then it threatened to blow out again, and we probably fought back a second time and hung in there. Never really looked like we could win, but didn't turn our toes up, which is probably an encouraging sign, I think, Nick. And it wasn't a painful watch like the previous ones had been, because the previous ones were thinking this is a game that's there for the taking and we just haven't taken it. This didn't feel like that, but it felt like we were having a dip at least.
100%. No, I was really encouraged by it. I thought it was a really positive showing. And like you said, we were kind of out of it 20 minutes in the first quarter. It's hard to come back when you're 5 goals down at any point in any game, no matter who the opposition is, let alone Geelong on their home patch and all that sort of stuff. We know it's been a while since we won down there. But I think we tweeted a couple of times during the game that after they'd kick a few in a row, the team has the opportunity to show us now what they're made of. And it wasn't about coming back to win the game. It was about not being blown out. It was about not letting the heads drop. It was about not taking the foot off the pedal. It was about, not getting overrun and continuing to work and show the commitment and the work ethic and all of those things. And every time they got challenged, because the margin was at 5 goals, right? We were 5 goals down, 15, 16 minutes into the first quarter. And that was the margin, essentially. I thought that we acquitted ourselves really, really well from that point on. I thought we worked really hard. I thought we ground out essentially a break-even, if not sometimes better performance than the Cats from that moment on. We were, if you take out those first 15 minutes, we were right in the game the entire time. And yes, they would kick a couple in a row and it would look like things were getting out of hand, but we never actually let it get out of hand. We would always find a way to work our way back in it. And it was Jack Steele and McRae and, those guys in the middle that really led from the front in that capacity and that regard. And, I was really encouraged by the mentality and the personality of that team. Like, that would have been super easy to have lost by 110 points, after the first 10, 15 minutes. It would have been so easy for them to just put the cue in the rack and say, you know what, I'm not going to chase this. I'm not going to run this tackle down. I'm not going to put the pressure on. I'm, save myself for next week. Because we were never going to win this one anyway. And now we're, that's been shown, that's been born true. So, it could have been super easy for us to just put the cue in the rack and self-preservation, essentially, but they didn't. And we didn't at all. And right through to, 5 minutes to go, we were chasing down, we were tackling the 1%ers. Hunter Clark goes in the middle in the last quarter and starts hunting the ball and, still hitting packs, hitting the contest, Tauru forward, leaping at the ball and all these sorts of things that I thought showed some real character. And I loved that. I loved seeing that when, for all intents and purposes, we could have lost that by 15 goals and we didn't. And we never let it get to that point. And we just kept fighting, really. And I thought that really showed what this team can be and wants to be moving forward.
So I think, and that's a good point where, it could have got messy, but it's that balance between the fact that we're trying to win games but trying to develop. And it was mentioned in the post-game by Ross about Tauru being on camera, and who was probably the difference, that we had a better matchup for Cameron all day available to us. Like, Wilkie could have gone on to him. He's generally beaten him. That might have limited his influence when we're trying to fight back, and it might have given us half a sniff. But then you're balancing that with the education of Tauru playing on one of the best forwards of the modern era, and what he could learn from that. So it would have been an interesting dilemma for Ross, thinking we're a better chance of winning the game if I switch this. But in the future, maybe we're better off if I don't.
Oh, absolutely. Him learning now, as opposed to us trying to scrap a win that's, in the end of the day, it's not going to get us into the finals. We talk about getting a bit of that confidence through young guys by winning and that sort of thing, but learning the game is probably right at the top of the tree at the moment. It's what we need these young guys doing. They need to be learning the game, and what's better for a third gamer to go on to the best forward in the league. That's your best your best learning ground. That's where you're going to pick up the best ways to play these players, best way to basically work with your teammates to take down these guys. And like he's had a lesson that's for sure. If we're going to do that, you may as well do it, and just play players on ones they're going to watch and learn from. And like I think we moved a few players around on Dangerfield on the day as well. He was another one that you would basically say, follow him, look what he does, understand the sort of, I guess, setup they have, the way that they move when the ball's coming towards them, or if the ball's, we've got the ball and it's traveling out, you still keep an eye on them and see what they do, just to be ready for if the ball does turn over, where they're going to go to, where how they're going to transition back into attack again. It's just learning those little things to just understand the way that the game works. It's a hell of a different game to what he was playing last year in under 18s, and it's a massive learning curve that I was quite happy for him to be down there on the weekend. And I mean, we look at Nick's talking about those goals in the first quarter, but going even deeper, if we had on the day gave up two lots of 4 goals in a row, one in I think it was a 7-minute period and one in a 12-minute period, cut both those back to 1 or 2 each, and the game is dead level. And that's just that youth thing. That's the young guys just switching off for a little bit and conceding multiple goals in a row, and not having that 1 or 2 and then going, hang on, let's shut that down now. It's taken 4 goals for us to get back into the game, back into a little bit of control. And I mean, speaking of control, I had a message came through from one of our regular listeners, Jordan, saying in the last 5 weeks, all losses, we've won the contested ball all 5, we've won clearances in 4, we've won disposals in 4, tackles in 3, and the inside 50s in 3. So we're not losing at football. We're losing on the scoreboard at the moment. We're losing on just that bit of polish and shine at the end of the day. Yeah. We're winning football. That's what we want. And the results will come. Yeah. We keep doing that same thing over and over and again. These kids learn and learn and learn. We will stop these teams scoring against us, and we'll end up scoring our end as well. So these learning curves will change that into results.
Yeah, you're 100% in that we're not losing at the football. You know, I think we're losing. We are hurting ourselves in some respect with silly mistakes, some poor decision making, and some awful execution at times. I mean, we know that our goal kicking has been an issue for a long time. That continues to haunt us. Some of the silly, inexperienced kicks across goal in the back half that turn into turnovers, and shots at goal going the other way. Some awful turnovers around our half forward line that immediately slingshot back and hurt us on the scoreboard going the other way. I mean, they are inexperienced mistakes. They're poor decisions that come from not fully understanding the speed of the game, the pressure, all of the things that come with being on the field in the hottest moments. And those things will come as these kids get more time. We've seen Taru give away some ridiculously poor free kicks, within 30 meters from goal over the last month. We've seen a bunch of Angus Hasty turnovers in the last couple of weeks. At times, we've seen a bunch of these kids make mistakes, and even some of them who we don't necessarily count as kids, but Mitch Owens and Windhager and these guys, even Naz to some extent in the first half of the year. If you remember, one of the complaints that we had was his decision making. He was biting off more than he can chew, and he was trying to do too much and get too cute and all these sorts of things. But 8 weeks later, he's not doing those things. He's doing the things that he has to do. And all those kids, all those young players take time to develop. And it's not just developing their body and their size and their power and their strength and their aerobic capacity and their footy skills and whatever, but it's bringing their mind and their brain up to speed, because these guys that have played for 10 years or more, your Dangerfields and Jeremy Camerons or whatever, can make these split second decisions instinctively, and they know what they're going to do, and their teammates know what they're going to do because they've been doing it for a decade together. Whereas our guys have been doing it for 12 weeks or 2 years or whatever, and they're still learning this kind of the patterns of decision making and the running patterns and a whole range of things that make what they do a whole lot easier when you get it right and when you get that experience and you get that muscle memory, both from a physical and a mental perspective. And I really think that we're on the right track here. I really, really do.
Yeah, we've been forced to blood defenders on the run, like Caminiti and Taru, which we wouldn't have necessarily anticipated them playing key back at the start of the year. And we probably had the wrong players get injured. Clearly, Max King has robbed us of any forward structure, but we wanted 12 months of Filippo. We wanted 12 months of Liam Henry. We didn't want Garcia to miss a month with a broken wrist at the moment. That would have been, handy to get more games into him. Taru's suspension didn't help us. I know a lot of clubs have had injuries, sure, but I just think we've had probably exactly the wrong players, to be honest.
Dougal Howard, when you've already lost Josh Howard and Tim Embry and then Max King.
Yeah, correct. So we lost all our height, and we've just had to adapt from a base that was relatively low. And I think we're okay. Is that ball movement's all right? And I know probably for 6 years we could say we've been all right around the ball but can't score. But it feels like it's a little bit different now. So there's a bit more promise in that ball movement and who's responsible for it. The defence has a bit of upside. And if we can get that forward line right, Sharman and Owens are going to be better players with a tall marking target alongside them. Obviously, a lot of that hinges on Nas, but Tom De Koning appears a certainty. Lika Lear at the other end of the ground appears a certainty. So De Koning can play ruck, can play centre-half back, can play forward. Just gives you a bit of versatility. I don't think Marshall goes, despite what people have been saying.
Yep.
But yeah, obviously the Nas contract is an interesting one. I mean, we'll talk about that as we go along, and there's a few other things around Nas that we'll discuss later, some crowd ideas and things like that. But, played as an explosive mid. We'll talk about that in our votes, but he doesn't look like a player that he's not playing like he's in the shits and wants to leave. That's for sure. He's certainly putting in and almost getting better and adding more and more strings to his bow. But we'll touch on that in a moment when we do the votes. Just before we do the votes, of course, we return to Marvel Stadium this week against the D's, and Unplugged proud to partner with Ticketverse for the 2025 AFL season. Get premium seats at Marvel Stadium's Medallion Club for St Kilda games, exclusive access to fine dining, bars and more. Visit ticketverse.com.au to explore your options. Tickets sorted. We look at the votes. I almost gave 5 to Nas, but just wanted to distribute them a little bit around. I gave 1 to Mitch Owens. Could have been a little bit better had he kicked straight, which we've probably said a dozen times this year. Windhager in really good form. 2 votes to Jack Steele. He's had double-figure tackles in 3 consecutive weeks, and 3, I think, of his best 6 games in that space. Sinclair, that was probably his best game in at least a month, I would think. He gets 2 votes, so 2 to Sinclair and Steele. And 4 to Nas. I mean, I could have given Nas 5, 6, 7, any number, but I obviously wanted to distribute it around. He was the best player on the ground across both sides, and found the coaches' votes interesting. Nick, as I hand to you for your votes, in that Nas got 9 and Jeremy Cameron got 5. So they were the 2 best players on the ground. So someone's given Cameron 5 and someone's given Nas 5, and fair enough. Mm-hmm. And the person who gave Cameron 5 has given Nas 4, but the person who didn't give Cameron 5 has given him 0. That's how I've interpreted that. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But your vote distribution?
Yeah, it's interesting because I actually thought I gave Cameron best on ground in my votes at 0 hanger, and Nas a close second. But Nas was quite clearly our best player. I could have given him 8 this week. That was my limit when I was trying to work this out. I figured I could realistically give him 8, but I thought that there were there are enough contributors to be worthy of some extra votes going some different ways. I gave Marshall one. Thought kept battling. I really like him when he pushes forward and is able to take a big grab and even if he doesn't mark the ball but bring the ball to ground, he gets he's part of the contest. He can get free kicks, and he can hit the scoreboard. So Marshall and him pushing forward, I really enjoyed. I thought Cooper Sharman was an interesting one because he had some good moments and some average moments, but I thought that from a running pattern perspective, I thought that we burnt him a couple of times. When he potentially could have been given the ball in scoring positions. But also he's just a beautiful kick of the ball. And, he's someone who I really hope that for his benefit, we can get guys like Max King back and fit and firing, because I think it'll free up Cooper Sharman a lot more. And it's one of the reasons why I came around to Tom de Koning. If that allows, let's say Max never gets back, but it lets Rowe push forward and play 75% forward. That frees up Cooper Sharman. And I really think Cooper Sharman's a talented player. He's not the finished product by any stretch, but he's a really talented player. He's a beautiful kick of the ball. He's got a pretty safe set of hands. He marks the ball at the highest point. It reminds me a little bit of Nick Riewoldt at times. Just he's got that vertical leap, arms right up. He gets it in the fingertips and pulls it down. But I think that he's a really impressive type, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do moving forward with a functional forward line. I gave one vote to Jack Sinclair, just another real solid Sinclair game. I thought he stood up. I thought he was one of those guys, we touched on at the top of the show, the mentality and the work ethic and the personality of this team. I thought he contributed in a really strong way to that, in continuing to run and continuing to provide options and all those sorts of things, even when we were 4 or 5 goals down. Jack Steele, I think his last 6 weeks have been very, very good. And it feels like we're getting closer to the Jack Steele that, that we want, that we got used to for a couple of years, that were, top 5 Brownlow finishes. I know he's not getting his kind of 30, 35 touches, but, he's impacting so heavily in the middle of the ground, and his clearance work, his tackle rate, his work ethic is really leading from the front in the middle there. And his last month has been really impressive from a leadership perspective more than anything. And then Naz, I gave 5. Like I said, I could have given him an 8, but 5. He was clearly our best player on the ground, and it wasn't even close, to be frank.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. H, your 10 spread.
Yeah, I'd like to give Naz 7 or 8 as well, but I'm not talking votes. Yeah, one to Marshall. It's a big day against a couple of ruck out there. We didn't seem to throw Heath in as much as probably the week before into the middle, and I gave him a chop out at times. I think the times we did have Marshall in the middle, we seemed to we've been playing the better football. It just seemed to be able to control that position a little bit better, and it just gave us a bit more movement. And I think we won probably more clearances in the time that he was actually in there. So, battled hard all day and worked out there. Windy in the middle, still going strong. Happy with the way he's going, and he's at the moment he's almost unless he has a shocker, he's turning up and just getting votes for fun at the minute. So if we keep him going, 2 to Steele, as everyone's saying, it's been his best month of football for probably a couple of years now. The tackle work, the in and hitting it hard, and that we missed that for a while there. He was trying, but it just wasn't happening, and it's come back. And let's hope that keeps going. It's great for the kids. It's great to just give that bit of leadership that he brings as the captain, and hopefully it just brushes off on the young kids, and he can pass on that sort of thing to the likes of Garcia and that just teach them the way he goes about it. And 2 votes there, 2 to Sinclair. Not his best game ever, but I thought his movement through the middle when he actually got it and got in the back line and just kept us moving. And it seemed to be from the times that he was getting it was probably at the points where he was finding things, and we moved so quickly after he was the one getting it out of there, and it just felt a lot more fluent, and the ball movement was much quicker when it was launching from him. And yeah, it's just another good day out there for him. He basically did as much as he has to, and he did. And as I said, yeah, Naz could have got as many votes as he wanted, but yeah, got 4 left for him there. And it's one of those days that it's another huge effort in a losing side. It's, as we say, he's picked up the majority of the coaches' votes, and they clearly realised that how damaging he was on the day. To I'm thinking that it probably was Scott who's giving him the 5 votes, just saying how we couldn't stop him, and then that's basically the point he's got to. That he's almost got to the point where you actually can't stop him, and it's going to take one of those big tags, and teams are going to have to sacrifice a player to stop him now. So. And just on looking back now, it's opened up quite a sizable lead in our votes now. So the 20, what are we looking at? 27 votes in the last 3 weeks. So it's he's really hit the straps, and he's really on the way to take that. And I'm assuming it's probably going to reflect on the best and fairest later in the year.
I think it was Sam Mitchell. You talked about Brad Scott giving him the 5 coaches' votes. You think about Sam Mitchell a couple of weeks ago in that Hawthorn game. Basically said we gave him a hard tag. We sent 4 or 5 blokes to him at different times in the game, and we couldn't stop him. He can do everything. He can run off halfback. He can go to the wing. We saw him a little bit before the last month, go into the middle, in and out. He's done that now. I mean, he was incredible in the middle on the weekend. We've seen him push half forward. We've seen him hit the scoreboard a little bit more. I think he's kicked 11 goals this season. He's just, I mean, he's on the verge of being a top 10, if not a top 5 player in the competition at the moment. He's just, what he's doing right now is incredible.
He's at the moment, the 3rd best player I think we've ever drafted. Now, that's not counting, I'm not talking about recruited, because you go back to Robert Harvey in the zone eras and things like that, but I'm talking about the national draft. I would say it's Rewald, Hayes, wanganeen-milera would probably be right, and that's what you're looking at. Del Sano and Montagna and
Goddard,
various Goddard, yeah. But I'd argue that he's on track to be the 3rd best player we've ever drafted. Behind those 2, yeah,
he'd be right up there in terms of value, especially. I mean, what have you got him at? Pick 11, pick 10, pick 11, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
should have taken Josh in though. So
that's right. But I mean, Sam Fisher was taken with pick 55. I mean, that's a value pick, right? I think
Hughes, Milne, and Wilkie, and everything. So
Marshall, Wilkie, those guys. But I mean, from a first round pick outside of your Nick Rewald. He's just about the most valuable pick in terms of, value over replacement, whatever you want to call it, that we've ever had.
Obviously, that's a conversation we'll have again soon in regards to what we think will happen and what we hope happens. And we'll hold fire on that for just a second. But continuing with the other awards, H, did you want to start with your Jason Blake award?
Yeah, I reckon a guy that's been almost given a bit of another chance due to circumstances with players missing and that sort of thing. I was quite happy with Ryan Birds' game on the weekend. He was finding the right spots, giving us a bit of chop out here and there. Like I feel like he actually had a couple of different jobs on the day. He was out there in one spot, and then all of a sudden you'd find him somewhere else, and it was almost like he was a bits and pieces man on the day, and just to fill gaps, but wherever he went, he seemed to be doing pretty well. So, he gave us a fair bit of drive at times. He got back and defended. He probably did everything that was asked of him on the day. And I reckon even the commentators were actually noticing him at times, which was quite interesting. They were quite happy with what they were seeing from him. So it was a bit of it's nice to see a player like that noticed, because generally he wouldn't be. But it was on the day. I was quite happy with his performance.
Nick?
Jason Blake, I gave to Anthony Caminiti. I think you mentioned last week, Darren, just his role down back, and that he's a defender now. He's not a forward, and if he's going to stick in the game, it's going to be as a defender. And I 100% agree with that. I think he's shown a far greater aptitude to learn the defensive part of the game over the last 19 weeks than he showed in a year and a half or whatever playing as a forward. I think he was kind of serviceable. He was a young kid. He runs a little bit, runs around like a headless chook at times as he's trying to learn positioning and running patterns and those sorts of things. But purely defensively, in terms of body on body and getting a fist in and stopping a man, I think he's been pretty good. He played on what's his name, Neil, on the weekend, and Neil can be a pretty dangerous forward, especially when you've got
the week before. Yeah,
that's right. When you've got your key defenders are focusing on your Cameron and some of the other small your Stengels and those kind of guys. There's a lot of dangerous guys in that forward line, and Shannon Neal is dangerous when you can let him off the chain. And I thought Caminiti did a really good job. I thought he did a really good job on Neil, and I think that's kind of. I think he's done it all year. I mean, yes, he's been beaten a couple of times, but you've got to remember that he's 21, 22, playing his first season as a defender. He was drafted late. He came into the system late. All of these things, I think what he's been able to do and what he's been able to show and what he's been able to achieve as a defender this year has been really promising. And he's got a role there moving forward, 100%.
I want to give a collective to a few guys who are being asked to play different roles and grow other aspects of their game, or they've been played out of position. There's a few in that boat, but so Marcus Windhager's been asked to sort of freewheel a bit in the middle, and he's responded to that well. Max Hall got thrown in the middle in the last quarter, responded to it well, having played more as a high half forward before that, or a bit on the wing, so he responded to that. Mason Wood's been asked to play numerous roles for the Saints. Now he's playing as a forward. I thought he, had a good response to what had been a fairly down patch of form for him. So probably just it. And Caminiti's the ultimate example of that, someone being asked to play a different role. But just wanted to give a mention to that there are players being asked questions by the coaches in, we know you can do this, but can you do this as well? And they're all responding to that. I mean, you could throw Nass into that boat saying, how do you want to go as a out and out mid, and Nass is like, well, I'll just be the best player ever at it. So it seems to be, that most players are responding to what Ross is asking them to do. So I think that's encouraging, which is what Jason Blake did. He was asked by multiple coaches, do you want to play centre half back? Do you want to tag? Do you want to play on the wing? Do you want to play in the ruck? And he would do all of those things. So I think that's certainly worthy of a mention. In terms of the Shannon Knoll Award, H, do you want to kick us off with who needs a lift?
I'm just thinking of a couple of selection points at the moment, and I think we need to be picking someone different to Hunter Clark as a sub. I don't feel he has that impact on a game as a sub as what he does playing out from the start of the game, and it takes a little bit of time to get into a game, it feels like at times. So bringing him on in the last quarter, he's not going to have any impact for us. I don't feel that is the way he plays. He settles into a game and then really picks up. So it's got to be a different player, I think. You need a burst player, a player who's basically going to come out with an X factor and change a game within 2 minutes. And that's not the sort of player he is. So I think there just needs to be a couple of different ways we look at that. Clark is a starter. He's a starter. He will find the mood of the game, settle into it, and then have an impact on it. So I just think a selection team might need a little bit of a different idea there.
That's a really interesting one, H, because I think quite often quite often we agree with each other on this show. We've all watched footy and been to the footy together for a long time, as we touched on at the top of the show. I actually disagree with you on that one, but I will preface that by saying I 100% agreed with you before the game. I thought Hunter Clark should have been starting. I thought that I essentially agreed with you 100% on all that. And then he came out in the last quarter and got six contested possessions, 2 score involvements, 2 inside 50s. I thought he had a really big impact coming on as a sub.
I don't think he did have an impact in this game, but generally it doesn't seem to be something that he's had it a couple of times, and it just doesn't seem to be his position. I would prefer. I think I said it was either last week or a couple of weeks ago that I think we are a better team. I think we're a better midfield with Hunter Clark in it. But I was really impressed with the way that he went about it, coming on as a sub on the weekend, and I wouldn't hate it as much if it happened again. But yeah, I'd prefer to have him playing most of the game, the whole
in the middle. Yeah.
All I'd say is
basically the main point. Yeah.
2 weeks in a row, I kind of cop. I don't know if he could have the same sub for 3 weeks. I know he came on before half time against Sydney because of the Butler injury, but there's options because obviously Wilson has to be replaced this week with the concussion. So is that Travalia
Garcia
or
out as well?
Yeah, so things that need to be worked through in that space. But Nick, you're Shannon Noel.
I love this guy. Mitch Owens, I love the way he goes about it. I love that he's back to his forward line wrecking ball, see ball, hunt ball, hitman, all these types of things. He can somehow kick these astonishing goals out of nowhere from the boundary line or over his head or whatever out of a ruck contest, etc. And then he gets the easiest kick known to man, 25 metres out, almost directly in front, and shanks it. Something's got to be done about Mitch Owens' set shot goal kicking. It is horrific. And he has the ability to be a very, very, very high level AFL footballer, Mitch Owens, whether it's as a forward or as a midfielder. I'd love to see him going in the middle a little bit more. I've been saying it for a couple of years, but he's become a real dynamic forward option for us. And particularly if we get another key forward in there to kind of take some of the pressure off, like we talked about with Cooper Sharman. I think that would do the same thing for Mitch Owens as well. But something's got to be, if we're going to play him as a full-time forward, something has to change with his goal-kicking routine or something, because it is just awful. It's awful to watch.
And some of the misses too at various stages. I mean, even in this game, the third quarter, he had a shot to get us within 9 points and missed. Then the one in the last quarter. We'd kicked 2 quick goals. He kicks that. We're within 20 points. Unlikely to win, but you've got your tail up and you never know. At the one against the Gold Coast where he missed on the 3/4 time siren from 15 metres out when we were 3 goals down. The Collingwood one, I think he kicked for the lead and put it out in the full from 35. There's numerous. Unfortunately for Mitch, the misses are coming not when we're 48 points up or 48 points down. It's coming at this is a massive kick sort of moment all the time. But mine, I know we're going to hand it into the next segment a little bit, or it is on the rundown. We did raise the question, it's time to talk about blah, blah, blah. And I'll hand it over to you for yours in a minute, Nick, but I wanted to touch on Luke Hodge last week because he was making those comments about the time we were recording, so we didn't get to summarise it. And Nick Rewalt responded well, and I thought he responded in the way that he should, because if people were going to level an accusation at Nick, it was going to be, you and Ross are super tight, so you're always going to have his back. But he explained it logically and factually in the way that he was supposed to as an analyst. And he even acknowledged that, saying that we all have our bias. And he pointed out that Luke Hodge played with Jared Ruffhead, who was sacked by the Saints, and, David Roth, who was sacked by the Saints. Brett Ratton was at Hawthorn for a long period of time. But there are just too many people in the media who operate that way. You look at, Kane Corns and Damien Barrett's vendetta against Luke Beveridge, for example, and various others. It impacts the way they report. And I've said this numerous times before as somebody who works in industry. We're not bigger than the game itself. It's not about us, our personality clashes. We're there to do a job, which is to report things accurately to people who follow particular teams. Now, criticism is fine. If people like Kane Corns and Luke Hodge want to be critical of the Saints and say, oh, yeah, I'm not sure about your development or your drafting, or you shouldn't be criticising this because you're not good enough, blah, 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 fine. If you want to say, I don't know how your forward line's developing, fine. Or you say, I'm not sure Ross Lyon can develop kids, fine. They're opinions. But to sit there and to quote things that are deliberately false and would take a minute to research, such as Ross Lyon and Brett Ratton have the same list. St Kilda have the third biggest list turnover in the AFL over the last 3 years, behind North Melbourne and Richmond, who are clearly rebuilding. To then say that that's the same list, it would have taken 2 minutes to figure that out. And that comes from somebody who wants to defend a mate, fine, in Brett Ratton, but that's not your job. There are people who are going to listen to that show, are going to say, oh, Ross Lyon's got the same list. Luke Hodge wouldn't say something incorrect on a national broadcaster that's one of the major right holders of the game. But yes, he did, and that's not good enough. So opinions are fine, criticism is fine, but you cannot say things that are factually incorrect and miles off the mark. That's, for me, as somebody who works in the industry, that is unacceptable. So, and there's no accountability for it at all. It's just, oh, hey, Nick, what did Hodgie say last week? And then they respond back. There's no production meeting at Channel 7 where they sit down and say, oh, hey, Hodgie, you probably should have researched that and you got that one wrong, mate. Maybe have a spell for a couple of weeks. It's not going to happen. They'll just get a bigger contract because they've created controversy and got all of these tweets and comments and stuff like that. But I don't know. Maybe I'm naive, but I expect better from a major rights holder than to say things that are just flat out incorrect. But anyway.
I 100% agree. And this was, I guess, goes into my next point. I just call it lazy journalism, and there is so much of it that goes around. There is, whether it's putting an opinion up as fact, or whether it's, just regurgitating what someone else has said without actually looking at the data or looking at the facts or whatever. I don't know exactly, but the Luke Hodge one is a perfect example of lazy journalism. Ross Lyon's doing worse with the same list that Brett Ratton had is just whatever that word is, false. It is just not correct. There's been, I think the numbers bore out to something like 60% list turnover
25
in
out
that
of 44,
time.
yeah.
Something like that. 58%, 60%, whatever it was. And there was another comment. So I think it was actually from a fan on socials that kind of used that to say, oh, Brett Ratton took this list further in finals than Ross Lyon did. Like, well, hang on. That was 3 years prior, in a COVID asterisk season where everything was up in the air and different. And our old and experienced players now were younger, less experienced. They were, they were still the experienced heads. It was the Dougal Howards and the Dan Butler and the Brad Hills and whatever, that took that list further. But they are now 3 or 4 years older, more experienced. Our list, on the other hand, is years younger and less experienced. It's just lazy. It's a lazy narrative. And that goes into the next part about the narratives around Ross Lyon have been the same for 20 years now, just about, in that, defensive, boring footy, hard to watch. Whenever St Kilda play a low-scoring game, oh, the Saints are so shit, they're hard to watch. It's Ross Lyon again, it's Ross Lyon ball and whatever. But then you get other teams, Richmond Essendon, that's like -1 to 7 at three-quarter time, and what a game of footy. It's, it's tactical brilliance and, riveting, and I can't turn away. And that's just bullshit. It's bullshit. It's lazy. And you said it, Darren, that as an industry, we have to be better at this. We have to get better at this. And it makes it even worse when it's from the rights holders, when it's from the broadcasters that broadcast the game, and that pay billions of dollars to do so. They have to be better. They have to be better. And it doesn't matter if you're Channel 7 or Fox Footy or SEN or 3AW or The Age or whatever, but it's even worse when you are the rights holder. But these things are everywhere, and I just find it so lazy, and it grinds my gears, to quote another fan who piped up on socials during the week saying that we should have a grinds my gears segment. That really
Pretty
grinds my
much do.
gears.
We just haven't called it that. Yeah, we
But I
pretty
mean, the
much
other
do.
one was that Peter Ryan headline, that the following day on the Monday morning or whatever in the Age, or Sunday night, whatever it was, it said the Saints slipped up. Did we? Were we expected to win that? Did we slip up? Did we cost our finals chances? Something horrible. Like, where did we
park against the top four side?
Where did we slip up? We were like $4 underdogs. Like, I don't understand. Like, yes, I know it's your job to get clicks and to drive traffic. I understand that. I run a media business. I get that. It's in my DNA. But like you said, be factual while you do so. You know what I mean? Like, use some logic in your language. Language matters. And I do understand that it feels like in this social generation and limited characters and whatever, that words don't have the same meanings that they always do, but they do. Words still have meaning. Words still have definitions, and language matters. And I just think we have to get better at this.
Yeah. There are too many people, H, who put their personal relationships or lack of relationships with people in the way. It is not even close to being their job.
Yeah. I mean, the only way we slipped up is we didn't lose by 100 and kill our percentage to keep us down there. But anyway, it's I don't know. It's you just see things sometimes, and you pull yourself away from commenting at times. It's just like, just not going to get into it. Like, there's so many posts and things that I swear, like, I reckon half these things about us chasing players this year have been just to draw in comments from opposition fans saying, "Oh, St Kilda's going for everyone," and rah rah, and it just feels like that's what they're trying to get. It's like, we saw another one this afternoon where I think we were now apparently chasing Motlop from Carlton, and I thought, why would we do that? It's just because I think Curno's, the rumor was come out that Curno's going to go or wants to go to the Gold Coast or something, but and then just picking, okay, pull a name out of a hat, okay, St Kilda's chasing them now. It's like, well, I don't know, is there actually anything behind this headline that's been written, or are you simply just pulling a name out and going, okay, I'll throw this out there, and if I'm right, I'm going to look like an absolute genius, or otherwise I'll get a heap of clicks and a heap of comments and that sort of thing, and I win because of that anyway. So it's just where did you get the information from? How do you put two and two together? Where's it come from? It just doesn't feel like there's any reason behind, like, or any proper information behind these posts. They just come out of nowhere. So yeah, it's frustrating at times just to think you can sit there and just make a headline and send it out to the world, and that's it. There's no, oh, I got that wrong or whatever. It never gets retracted, it just sits there forever.
I
try not to watch any of that. Yeah.
Talking about headlines, there was a headline on an SEN article this afternoon that read something to the effect of, and to their credit, it has been revised now. The headline has been revised, but the headline read something like, "Why St Kilda's mega deconing offer has cost them a star."
Huh.
Now, it's now been revised to, "Why St Kilda's mega deconing offer may cost them a star." But it was, when it was published and went out to socials and all of these things, was "Why St Kilda's offer to deconing has cost them a star." Now, you can imagine what every Saints fan thought when they see that headline, and the heart stops, for a second until they read the article, and it doesn't say that at all. But the headline, and again, it's just laziness, and I'm not singling people out for the sake of singling people out, because I feel like this is endemic across the industry, but there are some that are worse than others in this regard, and it's just lazy.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I try not to watch really any footy shows, but you're in Saints groups and you get tagged in stuff, and then you get sucked in and you listen to it or you read it and you're like, what did I do that for? And there's a Saints chat that we're in at the moment where they're talking about that at the moment, where it's difficult to read and watch certain stuff because of the nuffy aspect of it. But maybe we have to be a little bit of that. Turning our attention to the Ds, obviously no VFL, probably due to, I think we had our 14th bye of the season, Sandy, on the weekend. But so Dow didn't play. He had been tracking well, but you'd think maybe he has to play another one in the two. So Travalia, given Garcia was a laid out and Burns came in, maybe it's Travalia for Wilson. What else do we do there? I think Henry and Hasty and those sorts of guys, as mentioned, need to be persisted with. Obviously, Schoenmaker was the fact that Dow wasn't an emergency H makes me think that it'd be the guy they brought into the squad to replace Garcia, which was Travalia. That would probably be the way they go, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's probably the case. I mean, how many VFL games has he played now? It's like two or
three.
2 or 3.
Yeah. So
2.5.
I mean, he's been out for basically the whole season. He's barely trained. He's still trying to get into the speed of the game again, I'd assume. So
at 33 in his last game, but
I mean, it's a big jump from VFL to AFL. That's the issue there. That I mean, we've seen many players absolutely kill it in the VFL and then go and have 3 touches in the AFL. There's a big jump from one to the other, and whether we just let him play out the season in VFL and say, look, you're on the list, you're safe on the list. Just get some fitness back. Just get some touch back. Just don't go get yourself injured. That's probably one of the main things. Have a big preseason and be ready to run next year. We'll probably use. He's not at that point of being a veteran. He's not at that point where he's not young anymore. He's just in that sweet spot where he's at that age where that core group can be built around, and he could become a vital player in, as we were saying before, this whole building the group as it is. He could either slide in there and be a cog that we need to turn the team, but he might also be someone who's just there and he takes a young guy under his wing and shows him the way. So there's a couple of different ways it may happen, but yeah, I'm not sure whether he does come in at any point this year or not. It would be great to see him back out there, but it might just be a point of saying, just get yourself ready for next year, and play these young kids. Get a couple of games into the ones that a couple that haven't played yet. That might be an idea, just to get a couple of games into them. We've got a run now of what the teams that if we played early in the season, we'd be probably just sitting outside the 8, but looking ahead going, oh, we've got a horrible run coming up. It would have positioned us completely different to where we're sitting right now if these 4 had been a month ago. So it's a way to look at it and think, well, let's give a couple of guys a go who haven't had a taste of it yet, see what they can do, and let's see what they can do as a group, see what they can blend into what we've got already out there and build ready for next year.
Now, one proposal that has been put forward, Nick, we mentioned the NAS thing and some crowd interaction. So Dave O'Neill, St Kilda's media manager up until 2021 or thereabouts, good Ballarat stock, was media manager through the pandemic, has sent a message around to our show and a couple of others, and we've spread it around in regards to anything the fans might be able to do to persuade Wanganeen-Milera to stay, or not so much to stay, but just to remind him of how much he means to the St Kilda faithful. And he has proposed, and people could take this or leave it, but I think it's a good idea. So he's proposed at the 7-minute mark of the first quarter. Obviously, no reason to explain the significance of that Saints fans should stand and applaud effectively to show him how much it means, or how much he means to us. Now, it might not make a huge amount of difference, and it might be that there's 24,000 people at the game. Who knows? But You would think that commentators and those on the ground might pick up on the significance of that, but I don't mind that. We do see that around the world. The standing ovations in the cricket, if it's 1 for 36 for whatever reason due to some historical moment, and in football games as well. And you've referenced an example too, Nick, in baseball, which we'll touch on, but 7-minute mark first quarter on Sunday. I'm not entirely against that. The standing ovation amongst the Saints fans to acknowledge the Nas, hey, you're one of us, and we love you, and stick around if you can.
Yeah, I love it. I know that there are a few baseball fans amongst the St Kilda footy fraternity and whatever. Shout out to Mike Bandeal. You'll know this story very well. But as a Phillies fan, the Phillies signed Trey Turner as a shortstop to a $300 million 10 or 11-year contract a couple of years ago. And essentially for his first year, he forgot how to play baseball. The Phillies fans, especially in the stadium, Philadelphia sports fans are brutal. And they will let you know it when you're not performing. And for 3 months, they let Trey Turner know that he was stinking it up and not worth his contract, and they wanted him gone, essentially. And then at some point, a couple of fans got together and basically spread it across the radio, across TV, across media. Let's trust this guy. Like, we love this guy. He's a very, very good baseball player. There's a reason we gave him one of the biggest contracts in sports history. Let's show him some love and remind him that we care about him and that we're not here to destroy him and that we want him to play good baseball. And his first at bat this one day, I think it was 3 or 4 months into the season, and the fans got up and gave him a standing ovation in his first at bat. Hit a double, extra base hit, something he hadn't done for a little while. Second at bat, hit a home run, and basically then went on a tear for the next month, 2 months, where he was unstoppable and looked like one of the best players in baseball again. And the next season it was an all-star again. He's a very good baseball player, Trey Turner. And quite often he'll reference that when he's talking to media. He put up billboards thanking the Philly fans for their support, for helping him break out of this slump. It was just, his worst slump of his career. And these sorts of things, I think you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overplay it, but these things do have a part to play, and very different situations. Naz is obviously not thinking it up. He's one of the best players in footy at the moment. But I think it is a great way to show him how much he means to us as a fan base, as a group, and how much we want him to stay at St Kilda, at Moorabbin in the red, white, and black, and how much we love him. And I think that stuff is super important. I think we can forget sometimes that footy players and athletes and sports stars and celebrities are humans, and the things that make us feel good as people, which is recognition and credit and love and all these sorts of things, make a difference to athletes as well. And I think it's a really nice idea. I'd love to see it happen, and hopefully it's something that the other Saints fan groups, whether it's on social or podcasts or whatever, can get around and spread the word as well. And hopefully we can get 20 or 30,000 Saints fans standing up at the 7th minute mark of the first quarter to give him a minute of cheering and applause and all those sorts of things. And that message can be heard by Naz and his people loud and clear that we love him.
Yeah, if you are heading along, maybe thanks to Ticketverse on us, but and you feel comfortable doing it, hop out of the seat and show your appreciation for Naz. I think that the segue into that, is that we're recording this on a Tuesday. I believe Williams, his manager, is in town Wednesday, so tomorrow meeting with the Saints. And hopefully, if we don't get an answer out of that within the next week or so, you probably start to get a bit concerned. But hopefully there's something that comes from that which can settle it down. Well, I think we're hearing 2 years or port. I don't think it's going to be a 10-year deal or anything like that, as much as we would love it. But I'm still leaning towards the 2-year contracts at my end. I'm still thinking that's the likely outcome.
Yeah, well, you hope tomorrow's day a case of he's there to witness something, and that'd be hopefully what's going down. So it's been drawn out. It's been keeps floating along, and we keep hearing different things here and there, and different stories come up, but then you hear, okay, yeah, his manager's coming over. Okay, well, look, that's got to be a positive thing. He's actually coming over here. It could be you could just sit over in South Australia and go, I'm not coming or whatever. And yeah, it's good to know that something's happening. And you probably read, as I say, more positive out of that than you do negative. And let's just hope that, yeah, by tomorrow or Thursday or something, we hear something. And it just, yeah, we keep hearing these little whispers, and let's just hopefully one of those things will be, yeah, that positive news. Because I mean, the one thing I'm looking at as well with Adelaide and Port, they don't have a lot to offer. And unless they're sending someone back this way, they don't have all that much to offer to us to give back. So yeah, if we did end up losing him, we'd actually have to probably end up with a decent player, to be honest. So it's, if worse comes to worse, I still don't think we're going to lose out all that much, because it's not a case of Adelaide's got 3 first-round picks or anything. Them and Port pretty well don't have much at all. So it's a good opportunity to point that towards them and say, well, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. Even if you go, well, I want to go, well, you'll be putting your own career in your hands when with the draft or something, if you were to say, no, I'm not going to sign. And that's, yeah, more likely you won't get anywhere near Adelaide.
I'm going to go a step further, and I might leave it to you guys to decide what happens if I'm wrong here. But Naz is staying. I'm putting it there. Naz is staying, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Let's look at some of the big names that are rumored to be on the move or, out of contract, the big name free agents out of contract, whatever. Nazai Wanganeen-Milera is killing it. He's one of the best players in footy at the moment. He's loving his footy. He's playing incredible footy. Doesn't look like he's downhearted, downcast about anything. Doesn't look like he's struggling. You compare him to Tom de Koning, who for the last 6 weeks has been pretty awful. And I mean, the reality is he's got nothing to play for. Their team is a rabble. Yeah, they're not showing promise. I mean, at least when you look at us, we're showing promise. We've got kids coming through. We're playing them. We're seeing some positive signs. There's some optimism and enthusiasm within the group. And you look at Carlton, and they're real hard to watch, man. Like the money that they've got tied up in that list, the superstars they've got in that midfield, all over the field, really, they're really struggling, and they're real hard to watch. And it must be a really tough place to be at the moment. And someone like Tom de Koning, who's being offered mega bucks to leave, to go somewhere where it does look like there's enthusiasm and whatever. I mean, he looks like he's just checked out, Tom de Koning, and I think that he's about as close to making that decision as you could be, just going off the way that he's playing, and Naz is the complete opposite. Like you said, H, you look at the two SA clubs, they don't have a lot to offer. I mean, we're talking at minimum 2 first-round picks. If you want to play hardball, we're talking 3 top 10 picks for someone as valuable as a top 5 player in the competition. Look at what they had to pay to get Jason Horne-Francis a couple of years ago. The type of bounty that you're talking about for guys like Cozzy Pickett that was rumoured a couple of weeks ago before he signed his contract. What they're talking about, trade packages for Harley Reid, those types of guys. Naz is in that conversation. He's in that bucket, in that category of star right now in terms of the most valuable players on the market, and they just simply don't have it. Now, obviously, the reality is that if we don't re-sign him and he leaves, he can't go there. He's not a free agent. He's uncontracted, but he's not a free agent. He can't just walk to the club of his choice. If he walks to the draft, I can tell you West Coast and Richmond and North Melbourne are not letting him past. I mean, they've got the salary cap, they've got cap space, they've got dollars to spend, they've got the early picks. Those teams are not letting Naz pass to land at Port or Adelaide. That's just not going to happen. And so, you can imagine that those guys, those teams would match whatever Port or Adelaide can offer him. Now, does Naz want to go to Perth? Is he desperate to get out of Melbourne? I don't think that's the story. I don't think he's desperate to get out of Melbourne. I think the only decision is, does he want to go home and play in his hometown, or does he want to stay here and play with his mates? Either way, he's going to get paid a bucket load. We're talking about potentially increasing the offer for those 2 years. If it's a short-term deal, increase the offer and then potentially have a built-in trigger or a space, some sort of option after that. I think the 2 years takes him 1 year out from free agency from memory. So, fair bit of water to go under that bridge. But I don't see him leaving. I don't think he's leaving. And so I'm putting it here that Naz is going to re-sign. I think he's going to be here for at least 2 years. It could be a 3 or 4 year deal to take him through to free agency, to be a free agent, to then let him do whatever he wants to do at that point. But I think it will be a 2 year deal. I think it'll be on somewhere around 1.3, 1.4 mil a year for 2 years. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to decide what penance I have to pay if I get that wrong. But I'm putting it there that Naz is staying.
We could take some listener suggestions on that as well. Be kind. Yeah, I'm the same.
Well, I was about to say, we could probably make him do a pod with Phil by himself. That'd be
maybe. We've got Phil on the other line. Actually, his rant's still going. We've just put him on pause from a few weeks back. We'll check in with him again soon. But yeah, I might throw that open to listeners if there's anything you want to put there. But yeah, it felt like last year with Battle that maybe we were the slight outsider the whole way through. Feels like this time we're probably the slight favourite. It does feel a little bit more positive than that. Obviously, we're going to be nervous when you're watching a bloke tear it to shreds and he's not signed. You can't help but be a little bit nervous about that. But yeah, I'm leaning towards sticking around for probably the 2 year deal, which seems to be the consensus. But you never know. I just guess just before we wrap up, we'll throw the question out as well. We've obviously floated stickers and bits and pieces, but would fans wear any pod merchandise? Let us know on the socials if there's anything you would wear, want, hat, beanie, whatever it may be, and we can explore those potential options if there was enough interest in it down the track. In terms of those listener questions, I think we've touched on most of those, but I think Matt asking the question as to whether we would do what we did last year and end up winning 4 in a row and shifting our draft position a little bit. I think we're still going to try, you still want to win games. As Ross said, you want to sing the song. There's got to be some reward for effort and a mixture between obviously strengthening your hand and learning what it takes to get those results and building that culture and making you appealing to those you have and those that might be coming our way. And Ross
goes back a little bit to what I was saying before, that if those 4 games had been last month, that we'd be higher up now anyway. Probably you'd think we'd probably
be
take
9-9 or something,
3 or 4 of those. You'd sort of think, and we'd be higher right now. And then if we're coming up against the hard teams, then we'd be looking to go, okay, we're probably going to drop from here. So it levels out in the end. It's a bit like that one that's been going around saying how we've played more top 9 teams than any other team in the competition at the moment, but we only play GWS on the run. Rest what's left. So it's all going to equal out in the end. There's no. I mean, if anything, we've probably copped these 4 teams at the best time of year when they're just about done and they're dropping off. Essendon have got no players left. Richmond have just about given up now. They've probably at a point where, I mean, they've gone over to Perth and had a great win, but they're going to pull out one of those 2 of those occasionally, but otherwise they're probably just about done for the season. Melbourne, I don't know where they're at the moment, but yeah, and North, they're week in, week out as well. So a month ago, you'd almost would have thought, okay, we'd probably almost pick up all 4 of those. Now might be a little bit different. Though we might get 3, might get 4, might only get 2 of them. But I think if we had those games early in the season, we'd probably be sitting a lot nicer now than what we currently are. So it would have possibly changed the way we played the rest of the season. I don't think it's a case of it's going to cost us positions. We probably would have had them anyway.
I think the reality is that
mantra, if we lose to Essendon, I'll fucking spew up. That's for sure.
I think the reality is that, I mean, Ross Lyon doesn't play to lose. And players don't play to lose. It doesn't matter who we send out there. Those guys don't want to lose. There is a certain pride in being a professional athlete. No athlete worth their salt wants to lose games. I mean, if it wouldn't matter if we sent out Angus McLennan and Toby Travalia on the weekend or whatever, but those guys aren't going to be worried about if we have pick 6 or pick 8 or like they don't care about that stuff. And like Ross Lyon doesn't play to lose. He's going to be preparing whatever 23 go out there to play hard and to play to win. That doesn't mean that you can't still experiment. You can play a half with Taru at full forward and you can put Heath in the ruck potentially against Max Gawn a couple of times and, you know, let him experience what that's like and, you know, try a few of those things. You put, I don't know, you put some more of the younger kids against your Petrarca and Clary and these guys that are proven performers at the highest level and you see what they can do. And, you know, it's how we learned that Marcus Windhager could tag and it's how we learned that he could then be a force the other way is by trying these things. You know, putting Angus Hastie on Christian Petrarca when he moves forward is certainly a possibility. You know, it doesn't mean that we don't experiment, but it also doesn't mean that Ross isn't going to be willing those guys to go out and perform at their highest level available to go out and win a game of footy because that's what professional sports is all about. And coaches want to win games, players want to win games. Yeah, I mean, maybe your recruiting manager and your list manager and stuff is going, yeah, I wish we had pick 3 or whatever instead of pick 9. But it is what it is. They'll deal the hands that they're given, and it's the coach's job to go out and prepare a team to win every week. So that's what I assume we're going to do.
Yep, 100%. And I still think that's almost more valuable. You finish where you finish and you go to the draft with what you have, but, you know, learning to win and developing and not surrendering in that sense for a better position. I'm not sure that's ever helped anyone, in the long run. So yeah, I would imagine that our approach won't deviate from that mark too much, but yeah, if you have any feedback or reviews or anything, jump on your usual podcast channels and give us a subscribe and hopefully a 5-star review, but whatever you want, all honesty is welcome. Plenty of special guests obviously still in the pipeline for us. Big game this week, Ross Lyon's 500th collectively across playing and coaching. So 129 games with Fitzroy. Has coached St Kilda in 180 odd and then obviously Fremantle in about the same. So gets himself to that journey. Pretty rare air for coaches and players to get up amongst that. So another milestone. We've had quite a few of those lately with Wilkie and Marshall and various others hitting significant marks over the course of time, and Jack Steele's 100th game as captain. So a lot to hope for over the next 5 or so weeks, but go Saints.